Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Jerome Fletcher. I'm an Assistant Chief Administrative Officer here from Montgomery County, and I want to thank you for coming today to celebrate the completion of the 2-year apartment building inspection initiative. On behalf of the county executive, I would like to recognize a few people in the room. One, Councilmember Tom Hucker. Our incoming new Department of Housing and Community Affairs Director, Asim Nagam. Our also new Deputy Director of DHCA, Frank Demerai. As well as Matt Wilson, the Executive Director of Renters Alliance. Today would not be possible without the hard work and effort of the staff of the county, so I must recognize the housing leaders and inspectors who are here and those who are not here today. This is the first time in Montgomery County's history that we have inspected every building under this jurisdiction, which is 686 buildings over a 2-year period. Based on the number and severity of the violations we found, we rated each building as compliant, at risk, or trouble. 65% of the buildings, nearly 2/3, were found to be in compliance. 16% were deemed as at-risk properties. 19% were identified as trouble properties. The at-risk and trouble properties will now receive extra scrutiny and attention going forward to make sure that they are removed from that status, especially the trouble properties. By focusing our enforcement efforts on those properties, we are using our resources efficiently and effectively. Montgomery County is also taking one step further, making sure that we are working with our landlords to ensure that they understand that the county is serious. We want everyone to know and assure people who choose to live here in Montgomery County that they are living in the best conditions possible. To attract new residents and serve current residents, Montgomery County government is investing time and money working with apartment owners to assure that people who come here to live have the best living conditions in the entire region. I now want to welcome our leader, Mr. County Executive Marc.
So I'm really excited about this. This has been a long time coming, and I want to thank everybody that Jerome thanked. It's really critical that we've got a staff that could go out and do these inspections. The department made sure we got this job done, and it's a really important beginning. And I want to highlight something about that chart. It's the troubled buildings and the principle of every unit inspected in these buildings. We had a history of inspecting some units in some buildings. When you inspect some units, you can cite them all for violations, but the other 80% or 90% of the building units that didn't get inspected, they may have the very same violations and they don't have to correct anything. This is going to put an end to that. When we run into troubled buildings and we get, we have to go in and do inspections, we're going to do every unit. And when every unit is fit for habitation and maintained the way it's supposed to be maintained, then they're going to get off the troubled list. But this is our opportunity to make sure that residents of Montgomery County get treated fairly, that they get housing that they deserve to have. It's not like housing in this county is cheap. Even affordable housing in this county by other standards would be expensive. So this is a hard place to live, and if you're paying those kind of rents, you're entitled to decent housing. I'd say if you're paying any rent, if you're putting a roof over your head, you're entitled to decent housing. So this is a big step forward for the county, and I'm really glad we made it. I want to thank Tom, who's here, for his help on the council. We put this legislation through. He contributed amendments. We made this stronger, and I think we have one of the best housing laws in the important because you can have good laws. If you don't enforce them, they're worthless. And what really this signifies is that we are going to enforce them. My hope in the long run is that I don't collect any fines. What I'd like to have happen out of this is that landlords realize that we're actually inspecting, and rather than going through the process of getting fined and cited for violation and all this other stuff, that people start maintaining their buildings on their own. After years of neglect, I think landlords in this county got used to the idea you didn't have to do anything. Setting this marker down sends a very clear message that we expect the buildings to be maintained, and there'll be consequences if they're not maintained. And so this is really, really a step forward for us. This is one of my 7 priorities. It was critical to me that we may take steps in making this county more affordable and more welcoming. One of the reasons that I have a deputy housing director, Frank, Jerome acknowledged him earlier, is that I wanted a person in that department assigned to producing affordable housing. Having a director in the housing department did not in itself put enough emphasis on the focus we wanted to put on affordable housing. And it's a constant topic of discussion in this county. Having someone in the department, the deputy director level, whose job it is to find, build, create affordable housing is a big step forward for the county. And I just wanted people to realize this was intentional, and it's a change from the way the department was organized in the past. The bill we sponsor is the Tenants' Rights Bill 1115. You know, we introduced the bill before the disaster at the Flower Branch Apartments. But the bill, frankly, got the attention it needed after that tragedy. And I wish it hadn't happened that way. I wish it had been dealt with straight up. But that tragedy put a focus on it. And more than the tragedy itself, the subsequent inspection of the other apartments at Flower Branch and another complex put a spotlight on the condition of housing in Montgomery County, and it wasn't a very good spotlight. And it helped create the public will that I think helped get the council to have the will to deal with this quickly in a more meaningful way. So that was important that we did what we did. I wish the impetus had been natural rather than somewhat reactionary, but I'm glad it got done. Because that's what the tenants in this county need, is a policy that helps protect the conditions in which they live. We are going to be thorough and systematic. We're going to identify and focus on our problematic buildings, and we're going to be very aggressive in a reinspection process. And these are the keys, I think, to success. We've got a good team of inspectors. I think, you know, everybody understands the direction we want to go on, and I'm confident that you're going to get us there. You're trained, and if you need more training, we'll make sure you get the training you need so that you can be most effective in your job. And again, I want to thank everybody who helped get us to this moment. Again, the people in the department who made the inspections possible, carried them out. I think we've made a major step in the right direction. I'm proud of where Montgomery County is now, and I think we're just going to get better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. This effort could not have been done without the partnership of strong allies of ours. And on that note, I want to welcome Mr. County Council Member Tom Huller.
Thank you so much, Jerome. Good afternoon, everybody. As the county executive said, I was very proud to work with him to support his bill back in 2015 when he was on the council. It was one of many things where I used to look over and cheat off of his notes as he sat next to me. I was proud to be one of the original supporters of this bill, along with Councilmember Nancy Navarro. And at the time, there were only 3 of us. Yep. And as the county exec said, this bill really languished for a whole year and had to be renewed. And it was really, unfortunately, after the Flower Branch explosion, that there was a new spotlight put on rental housing conditions. While they didn't contribute to the explosion, there was a spotlight put on longstanding problems in our Montgomery County rental housing that necessitated the council, majority of the council, feeling like they had to step up and do something. And this bill was sitting right there in the right place at the right time. But I really want to thank the county executive. Thank you, Marc, for fighting for tenants, especially the tenants who are poor, who are immigrants, who are disabled, who most need the county government on their side, who have a hard time fighting for themselves for over 30 years now. People are cynical about politicians, and they say, you know, we just are always driven by the polls. Well, nobody fights for tenants because they think this is going to really help them politically. We do it because it's the right thing to do, and Marc, you've been doing it for over 30 years, and that's really This is a landmark achievement that we're announcing today. When you see these numbers, they're really thrilling. I'm proud to have supported the original bill and, as Marc said, proud to have supported some amendments to tweak it to focus our finite inspection resources on the worst properties with the worst history and the most severe violations, focused on health and safety violations, and spelled those out in the law for the first time. And today shows that that approach is really paying off. We have heard rationalizations for years that mold and vermin and broken smoke detectors and housing and fire code violations were really rare in Montgomery County. They were, sometimes people said they were fabrications or they were caused by the tenants themselves. And I think today's data shows that those skeptics were wrong, and there have been widespread health and safety problems in Montgomery County housing for quite a long time. The new and improved DHCA has now proven that those violations have been going on for years, and I hope today is the beginning of the end of a new era of more frequent inspections and adherence to our county laws. By taking a deliberate and data-driven approach, we now have our arms around the problem. We have a program that's effectively addressing it. To see 96% of the violations being corrected is really terrific, and it's a model for other governments in the area and nationally. I'm thrilled that the surge inspections are now completed, and we have a great baseline to build on going forward. It also wouldn't have been possible without all the new inspectors that we've supported in the budget and the council supported, so thanks to all of you for all the hard work getting us to this point. The data that are being released today also make other reforms for tenants possible. I introduced and was able to pass through the council a bill recently to let tenants out of their leases without losing their deposit if the landlord has been ignoring persistent health and safety violations for over 30 days. And we have another one we're going to have a hearing on next month requiring working air conditioning, because after the hottest month in recorded human history, I believe working air conditioning is as much a health and safety necessity as working heat or smoke detectors. Well, you can't make those those types of legislation work without frequent inspection. It's all based on frequent inspection and the data that's collected in each unit. Both measures are strengthened by all this data. As the member representing the district that has the Enclave and Flower Branch and Northwest Park and so many of our real problem properties in Montgomery County, I'm particularly grateful for your leadership and for all the hard work that led to this day. Our 300,000 tenants deserve to feel as valued and protected by our county government as all of our homeowners do. And that wasn't always the case, but today's announcement goes a long way toward making that a reality. So again, thanks Marc, thanks Tim, thanks to all the inspectors for turning this idea we had 4 years ago into a reality.
Thank you, Councilmember Hooker. We all know that the hard work and efforts of the staff is done through inspiration from great leadership. So at this time, I would like to bring up the acting DHCA director, Mr. Tim Goskinger.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for coming out. This is really a historic day. This is tremendous, and I'm glad that we can celebrate it with you. At DHCA, we are mission-driven. We care about what we do. We get up and we put on our clothes and we go out and we make a difference. And we wouldn't be here today if it weren't for the resources and the push from the administration, from the county council, and it's appreciated. We couldn't have been out to all of these properties in such a short period of time. And we couldn't have gone from an average of 15% inspections to 33% of all of the units were inspected over a very short period of time. We couldn't have done that without your help. So thank you. And from here, you know, it's a very bright future. We know where we're going. We're going to be in the troubled properties, every single unit, every year. For the at-risk, we'll be in a higher percentage than we've been at. And for those that are compliant, less. We'll be there less frequently because they're compliant. It took a lot of work, a lot of dedication, and a lot of skill to get here. And it took a lot of people, it took a lot of resources. And we won a few awards getting here too. Our IT department, with the help of the code enforcement staff, put together a mobile app to be able to ease and streamline the code enforcement inspection process. We also won an NACO award when we developed the troubled property list and how we calculate it. And so that's in the past, and I like the coined phrase of the new and improved DHCA. Absolutely, new and improved. And we're going to, every day, get a little bit better because we know that our work is important and that it impacts the lives of everybody in this county. And again, a lot of work went into this, and I want to thank all of the staff and all the managers who chipped in and who are here today. So I would like to specifically thank Chris Anderson, our Chief of the Community Development and Code Enforcement Unit, Dan McHugh, Manager of Code Enforcement, Charlotte Cherry Quintanilla, the Program Manager, who also does our outreach, and all of our inspectors, and I believe that we have a list of all those that are here today. CC Kenna, Tim Pilgrim, Joe Jones, Wendy Cases, Rudy Castro, Julia Chen, Kay Williams, then also our awesome IT team, Gael, Sweta, Naveen, Jacob, couldn't have done this without you. And let's not forget our incredible section managers that we have, Key Nichols, Cynthia Lundy, and Ivan Aloisa. Without your leadership, we couldn't have been here, we couldn't have gotten it done, we couldn't have gotten it done on time. And thank you. Your job is incredibly tough, and you don't get recognized enough. You go out there in sometimes difficult environments where people don't want you necessarily in their units, or managers don't want you necessarily in there. But you go in there and you make the county better. And I think that's about it. So thank you, I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim. Montgomery County is the best county in Maryland, period. In case anyone in this room did not know that already. And now I want to introduce Jheanelle Wilkins, who is a state delegate and also from the Board of Directors of the Renters Alliance.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jheanelle Wilkins. I'm a Maryland State Delegate representing District 20, which is the Silver Spring and Tacoma Park area, and I'm also a proud board member of the Montgomery County Renters Alliance. I really want to thank County Executive Marc Elrich for his tireless advocacy for renters' rights. I remember when this legislation was being considered, and no one thought that it could pass. It was stalled. But I was then a board member. I wasn't in the State House then, and I just remember the county council member at the time just being tireless and relentless in his efforts to pursue this legislation, and look where we are now. So thank you so much, Mr. County Executive. I also want to thank Council Member Tom Hucker, Council President Nancy Navarro. At the state level, these are folks that I know I can count on as I'm advocating for renters' rights issues, who I can really count on to be with me and be advocating as well. Renters' homes are truly safer and more stable as a result of the work and this effort. I'm really proud that our county has taken unprecedented steps for developing this code inspection program and targeting troubled properties in a strategic and more effective way because of the passage of Renters Protection Bill 1915. This bill as well would not have been possible without allies and advocates like the Montgomery County Renters Alliance. The Renters Alliance is the only organization in Montgomery County that is specifically dedicated to outreach and support to advance the rights of renters. And as someone who works at the state level, that is difficult to find anywhere in the state. There's truly an imbalance when it comes to the rights in this county, when it comes to landlords and renters. And that imbalance, it can be fatal and it can be deadly. We've seen that happen when it comes to renters who are not being listened to, like at the Flower Branch Apartments. We've seen that happen throughout our county when there are evictions, where renters don't even have the ability to have a lawyer to even advocate for them. And so this legislation, when it comes to code enforcement, making sure that our renters have stable, have healthy places to live is just so critical. I really want to lift up the fact that in Montgomery County, we have 40% of county residents who are renters. This is a really, really important and growing statistic. And I think that their voices are being heard even more by our county council, by our elected officials, and their voices are getting even louder. I see that CASA is in the room, and I want to thank you all as well for your advocacy for renters. Thank you so much, CASA, because we know that without our allies coming together with renters, we would not be here in this moment. I really want to commend again the county executive and all of the work of DHCA. And I also want to say that there's so much more for us to do together. There's so much more that we can do to go even further for renters and their rights. We know that we have to make sure that we expand the rights of renters. We need to make sure that they're able to freely form tenants associations and be able to collectively organize and come together. We know that it's important for renters to not be priced out of the places where they live, because as the county executive said, it's not cheap to live in Montgomery County. We need to make sure that no renter is evicted without a just cause, without that important notice and information being provided. And we need our landlords and our property managers to do their part, to not just obey the law, but to know the law. So working with our partners, working in continued partnership with the county council and with allies, I know that we'll be able to get this done. So I'm here to just say how proud I am of this code inspection program, the success so far, and I'm looking forward to continuing the work with our wonderful allies and advocates to ensure that we have safe and stable dwelling units for every single renter in Montgomery County. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming. We are glad that you were able to take out some time of your day to enjoy this moment with us. We think very deeply and fondly of those who got us to this point. We want to again thank them for their hard work, everyone who was mentioned and those who were not, who had a hand in contributing to this success. This is great news for Montgomery County, and please stay on the lookout for more great news to come. Thank you.